The stars shimmered against the black void of space as the Vrix war cruiser Talon of Dominion moved through the Kepler Traverse. Commander Thexville stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes scanning the tactical displays with practiced ease. His scales rippled with anticipation. Today would be a good day for the Concordat. For 3 months the Vrix had watched the humans. These soft creatures had emerged into the galaxy like children stumbling into a war zone. They spoke of peace and cooperation. They offered trade agreements and cultural exchanges. To Thexville and his people, this was the behavior of prey animals, weak, pathetic, ready to be dominated. The sensor officer hissed, drawing Thexville's attention. A single ship had appeared on their screens. The computer identified it as a human cargo vessel, the Maiden's Reward. It was alone, traveling through space without escort. Perfect. Thexville felt his secondary hearts quicken with excitement. The Concordat had been testing humanity's resolve for weeks now, pushing boundaries, violating their space lanes. The humans always protested through diplomatic channels. They never fought back. This would be easy. He gave the order and the Talon of Dominion decloaked directly in front of the human vessel. The cargo ship was small compared to his warship, perhaps 1/5 the size. Its hull was painted with bright colors and identification markers. It looked fragile, defenseless. The communications officer opened a channel. Thexville stood tall, letting his full height of 9 feet dominate the view screen. He bared his fangs in what his species considered a display of dominance. Human vessel, this is Commander Thexville of the Vrix Concordat. You have entered sovereign Concordat space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Surrender immediately and you will not be harmed. For a moment there was only silence. Then the human captain appeared on the screen. She was small, barely 6 foot tall by Thexville's estimation. Her skin was pale, her hair tied back in a simple knot. She wore a plain grey uniform with minimal decorations. She looked utterly unremarkable. Captain Sarah Chen looked directly into the camera with eyes that didn't show fear. That should have been Thexville's first warning. Negative, she said calmly. This is not Concordat space. This is neutral territory under the Kepler Accords. We are conducting lawful transit. Withdraw from this vector or face defensive action. Thexville laughed. His crew joined him, the bridge filling with the harsh barking sounds of Vrix amusement. Defensive action? From a cargo hauler? Human, you do not understand your situation. We have weapons that can tear your little ship apart. We have armor that can withstand any attack you might attempt. Surrender now, or we will disable your vessel and take what we want. Captain Chen's expression didn't change. She glanced at something off-screen, then looked back. Commander, you are making a mistake. Our distress beacon is active. Help is en route. I'm giving you one chance to withdraw peacefully. This made Thexville even more amused. Help. The nearest human military base was 3 days away at maximum speed. By then he would have stripped this cargo ship of anything valuable and been gone. Your arrogance will cost you, human. Weapons, fire a warning shot across their bow. Let them see what real power looks like. The weapons officer complied. A bright blue plasma bolt shot from the Talon of Dominion's forward cannons, streaking across the space in front of the Maiden's Reward. It was a perfect shot, close enough to be threatening but not close enough to cause damage, a universal language of surrender or else. The human ship didn't move. It didn't try to run. It just sat there in space, engines humming quietly. Captain Chen appeared on the screen again. This time something had changed in her expression. Her eyes were harder, colder. Commander Thexville, you have just fired upon a vessel flying under the flag of the United Earth Navy. This constitutes an act of war under the Tau Ceti Convention. You have violated 17 articles of interstellar law. I am required to inform you that we will respond with appropriate force. Thexville felt irritation replace his amusement. This human was still talking, still pretending to have power. Weapons. Disable their engines. Nothing lethal. We want them alive for questioning. 3 more plasma bolts fired from the Talon of Dominion. These were aimed with precision at the cargo ship's engine section. They should have ripped through the weak hull plating that civilian vessels carried, crippling the ship and ending this farce. Instead, something impossible happened. Panels along the Maiden's Reward's hull slid open. Thick armor plating emerged, unfolding like the petals of a metal flower. The plasma bolts struck the armor and dissipated harmlessly, absorbed by shields that had no business existing on a cargo vessel. Thexval's mouth fell open. His crew went silent. More panels opened. What had looked like cargo containers revealed themselves to be weapon bays. Railguns extended from hidden ports. Missile tubes rotated into firing position. Point defense systems activated with a sound that carried even through the vacuum of space, picked up by the Talon sensors. The Maiden's Reward transformed before their eyes. What had been a defenseless cargo hauler now bristled with enough weapons to challenge a military destroyer. Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen again. She was no longer sitting. She stood on her bridge, surrounded by crew members who were all in military uniforms, all moving with practiced efficiency. Behind her, tactical displays showed the Talon of Dominion outlined in red, weapon solutions already calculated. Commander Thexval, I need you to understand something very clearly. The Maiden's Reward is a United Earth Navy Q-ship. That means we're a warship disguised as a civilian vessel. We were specifically sent to this sector because intelligence suggested the Concordat was targeting human merchants. You just attacked a military vessel of a sovereign nation. You fired weapons at personnel under my command. She leaned forward and for the first time, Thexval felt something he hadn't experienced in years: fear. 6 weeks ago, your Concordat killed 3,000 of my people on New Perth. Men, women, children, families. You butchered them because you thought we were weak. You thought we wouldn't fight back. You were wrong. Captain Chen's voice dropped to a whisper, but somehow it seemed louder than a shout. Weapons free. Target their engines, their weapons, and their communications. Leave life support intact. I want survivors. I want them to go home and tell the Concordat exactly what happens when you attack humans. The Maiden's Reward fired. Rail guns launched metal slugs at incredible velocity. They struck the Talon of Dominion's shields and punched straight through. The Vrik's shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid projectiles moving at thousands of meters per second. Alarms shrieked as the slugs tore into the warship's armor. Missiles followed, each one twisting and dodging with unnatural agility. The Talon's point defense systems tried to shoot them down but couldn't keep up. The missiles struck engines, weapon batteries, and sensor arrays with surgical precision. Thexval grabbed his command chair to keep from falling as his ship shuddered under the assault. Return fire. Destroy them. But the human ship was already moving. It accelerated with impossible speed, circling around the much larger Vrik's vessel like a predator circling wounded prey. Every time the Talon tried to bring its weapons to bear, the Maiden's Reward was somewhere else, firing from a new angle. Through the chaos, Thexval heard Captain Chen's voice, calm and cold. Welcome to war with humanity, Commander. Class is now in session. The bridge of the Talon of Dominion had become a nightmare of flashing red lights and screaming alarms. Thexval clutched his command station as another impact rocked the ship. Through the main viewport he could see the human vessel dancing through space with movements that should have been impossible for a ship that size. Shields at 40%, his tactical officer shouted. They're targeting our weapon systems. We've lost the port missile battery and 2 plasma cannons. Thexval couldn't understand what was happening. His ship was 3 times the size of the human vessel. It had armor plating that had withstood attacks from the Krell Empire. It had shields powered by zero-point energy. Yet the humans were cutting through his defenses like they were made of paper. Another salvo of railgun rounds struck the starboard side. The solid metal slugs punched through the shields and smashed into the hull. Each impact sent shock waves through the entire ship. Thexval's crew was being thrown around like toys. Some were injured, bleeding the purple blood of the Vrik's people. How are they doing this? Thexval demanded. Those are primitive kinetic weapons. Our shields should stop them easily. His science officer looked up from her station, fear evident in all 4 of her eyes. Commander, their weapons are moving too fast. The kinetic energy is overwhelming our shield generators. They're using physics against us. Physics, of course. The Vrix had spent centuries perfecting energy weapons and energy shields. They had assumed everyone else would do the same. But the humans had kept the old ways, the brutal simplicity of throwing metal at high speeds. And it was working. The Maiden's Reward fired again, this time launching a spread of missiles. Each missile had a small thruster system that let it change direction mid-flight. The Talon's defensive systems managed to destroy 3 of them, but 2 got through. They struck the main engine section and Thexville felt the ship lurch. Engine power dropping, the engineering officer reported. We're losing plasma containment in reactor 2. Main thrust down to 60%. Thexville made a decision. Helm, bring us about. Full power to rear shields. We're leaving. Yes, Commander. The Talon of Dominion began to turn. Its massive bulk slowly rotating to point away from the human ship. Thexville's fingers worked the controls to activate the faster-than-light drive. Once that was online, they could jump away from this disaster. He could regroup, call for reinforcements, and come back with a proper fleet. The FTL drive charged slowly, too slowly. The human ship seemed to sense what he was planning. It accelerated again, circling around to target the Talon's engineering section directly. They're locking weapons on our FTL core, Tactical warned. Evasive maneuvers. Get us out of their firing solution. But the Talon of Dominion was too big, too slow. The human ship was smaller and more agile. It stayed in position behind them no matter how the helmsman tried to maneuver. 3 more railgun rounds fired in quick succession. All 3 hit the engineering section with devastating accuracy. Alarms shrieked even louder. The lights on the bridge flickered and died, replaced by dim emergency lighting. FTL drive is offline, engineering reported. Direct hit to the quantum manifold. We're not going anywhere, Commander. Thexville felt his blood run cold. They were trapped, dead in space with a human warship circling them like a shark around a wounded fish. He had heard the stories from other species, whispered warnings about the humans. He had dismissed them as cowardice. Now he understood. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were hunting. Open all emergency channels, Thexville ordered. Send a Priority 1 distress signal to the Concordat High Command. Tell them everything. Yes, Commander. What should the message say? Thexville watched the human ship through the viewport. It had stopped firing now, just sitting there in space, its weapons still trained on his crippled vessel, waiting. Tell them the truth. Tell them we were wrong about the humans. Tell them these creatures are not prey. They are apex predators. Tell them to avoid human space at all cost. Tell them if they see a human ship, they should run. The communications officer sent the message. It broadcast on all Concordat frequencies, a warning that would reach every Vrix ship in this sector within hours. The human captain's face appeared on the screen again. She still looked calm. That somehow made it worse. She wasn't angry or excited. She was just doing her job, and her job was destroying Vrix warships. Commander Thexville, your vessel is disabled. Your FTL drive is offline. Your weapons are destroyed. Your shields are failing. You have 2 choices now. You can continue to fight, and I will destroy your life support systems and leave you to die in the cold of space, or you can surrender, and I will ensure your crew receives medical attention. Thexville wanted to refuse. His pride as a Vrix warrior demanded that he fight to the last breath. But he looked around his bridge at his injured crew, at the young officers who trusted him to lead them, and he knew there was only one choice he could make. We surrender. Smart decision, Commander. Power down all remaining weapon systems and standby. The Talon of Dominion went dark. All weapons powered down. The ship hung in space helpless. Thexville expected the humans to board his ship, to take prisoners or execute his crew. Instead, something else happened. His sensors picked up 3 new contacts emerging from faster-than-light travel. 3 more human ships appeared in the system, and these were not disguised as cargo haulers. They were warships, real warships. Each one was twice the size of the Maiden's reward, and covered in weapon systems that made his Talon look primitive. They moved into position around his disabled vessel, forming a perfect triangle. He was surrounded. The largest of the 3 ships hailed them. A new human appeared on the screen. This one was older than Captain Chen, with grey hair and a face marked by deep lines. He wore a uniform covered in metals and decorations. An admiral, Thexville realized. Commander Thexville, I am Admiral James Katsuro of the United Earth Navy. The ship you attacked was under my command. The crew you fired upon were my people. The admiral's voice was soft, but there was steel underneath. Thexville had heard that tone before, from generals who had seen too much war. You are now a prisoner of the United Earth Navy. Your crew will be treated according to the Tau Ceti Convention on the treatment of prisoners of war. You will receive medical care, food, and humane treatment. When this is over, you will be returned to the Concordat. Thexville was confused. You're not going to execute us? Execute you? No, Commander. That would be a waste. You're worth much more to me alive than dead. I don't understand. Admiral Katsuro leaned forward, his eyes hard. 6 weeks ago, your Concordat attacked our colony on New Perth. You killed 3,000 people, Clear's throat, men, women, and children. You burned our homes and destroyed our crops. You did this because you thought we were weak. You thought we wouldn't fight back. The Admiral's voice grew colder. You were wrong. And now you're going to help me make sure the Concordat never makes that mistake again. You're going home, Commander. You're going to tell your leaders exactly what happened here today. You're going to tell them what human ships can do. You're going to show them the sensor logs of this battle, and you're going to deliver a message for me. What message? That humanity remembers New Perth. We remember every single name, every single face. And if the Concordat ever attacks another human colony, another human ship, or harms one more human life, we will not send Q-ships. We will not send small battle groups. We will send fleets. We will send armies, and we will not stop until the Concordat is nothing but a memory. Admiral Katsuro's face filled the screen. Do you understand me, Commander Thexville? Thexville understood perfectly. The humans were giving him mercy today, but it was a conditional mercy, a warning wrapped in kindness. I understand, Admiral. Good. Captain Chen, your ship will escort the Talon of Dominion to the nearest neutral station. Provide them with enough reactor power to keep life support running. Send medical teams to treat their wounded. And Commander Thexville, yes, Admiral. There are 6 human colony ships currently en route through Concordat space. They're carrying civilians, families, children. Safe passage is expected. If anything happens to those ships, I will hold you personally responsible. Make sure your government understands that. The transmission ended. Thexville sat in his command chair, surrounded by the wreckage of his once proud warship, and realized that everything the Concordat thought they knew about humanity was wrong. The High Council chamber of the Vrix Concordat was a massive circular room carved from black stone. 12 leaders of the 4 Concordat species sat in elevated chairs, looking down at Commander Thexville as he stood in the center. Above them, holographic displays showed the sensor data from his battle with the human Q-ship. The footage played on repeat, showing the Talon of Dominion being systematically destroyed. High Prelate Kickstart, leader of the Vrix and head of the council, leaned forward. His scales were deep crimson, marking him as a warrior who had seen many battles. Commander Thexville, you stand before this council in disgrace. You lost a heavy cruiser to a single human vessel. You surrendered without fighting to the death. Explain yourself. Thexville kept his head high. High Prelate, with respect, fighting to the death would have accomplished nothing. The humans had already disabled our ship. They had reinforcements. My crew would have died for no reason. Your crew should have been willing to die for the Concordat. Kickstart's voice echoed through the chamber. Instead, you showed weakness. You showed fear. And now the humans think they can intimidate us. The humans don't think they can intimidate us, Thexville said quietly. They know they can destroy us. I saw their weapons. I saw their tactics. High Prelate, we have made a terrible mistake. The humans are not weak. They are the most dangerous species I have ever encountered. Murmurs ran through the council. Some were angry. Others were thoughtful. Strategic Overseer Minute Thal, a member of the Quelac species known for their analytical minds, raised a hand for silence. Commander Thexville, tell us about the human weapons. Our intelligence says they use primitive kinetic systems. Surely our shields could handle such basic technology. That's what I thought, too, Overseer. But the humans didn't just throw rocks at us. Their railguns fire solid projectiles at incredible speeds. The kinetic energy was too much for our shields. They punched straight through and hit our hull. And the projectiles themselves were made of dense metals that tore through our armor like it was fabric. Minute Thal made notes on her datapad. Interesting. What about their missiles? Autonomous. Each missile had its own guidance system. They could change direction mid-flight. Our point defense systems couldn't track them all. And when they hit exactly where the humans wanted them to hit. They disabled our engines without destroying them. They took out our weapons without killing the crew operating them. It was precision I've never seen before. They were showing mercy, one of the other council members said dismissively. That's weakness. Thexville shook his head. No, it was control. The humans could have destroyed us completely. They chose not to because they wanted us alive. They wanted us to come back here and tell you all of this. They wanted you to see the sensor logs. This was psychological warfare. High Prelate Kickstart slammed his hand on his chair's armrest. I will not be intimidated by a species that has been in space for barely 300 years. We have ruled this sector for 10,000 years. We have conquered 47 species. We will not bow to humans. Minute Thal stood up, her tall, thin frame unfolding gracefully. High Prelate, with respect, perhaps we should analyze the situation more carefully before making decisions. Commander Thexville, tell us about the human admiral. What was his demeanor? Thexville thought back to Admiral Katsuro's face on the screen. He was calm, controlled. He didn't gloat or threaten. He simply stated facts. He told me that if we attack another human ship or colony, they will respond with overwhelming force. He treated my wounded crew and let us go, but I believe every word he said. This was not a bluff. Of course it was a bluff, Kickstart growled. The humans have a small navy. Maybe a few hundred ships spread across their territory. We have thousands. If it comes to war, we will crush them. Minthal pulled up data on the holographic display. That may not be accurate, High Prelate. Our intelligence has been incomplete. I've been reviewing what we know about humanity and there are concerning gaps. For example, we don't know where all their military bases are located. We can't intercept their communications. Their encryption is beyond anything we've seen. And according to reports from other species, humans don't fight like we do. What does that mean? Another council member asked. Most species in the galaxy have centralized military command. If you destroy the capital, the military becomes disorganized. But humans don't work that way. Each human colony has its own defense force. Each ship captain has significant independent authority. If we destroyed Earth tomorrow, the rest of humanity would keep fighting. There's no single point of failure. Thexville nodded. The Admiral told me something else. He said humanity remembers. They keep records of every attack, every casualty, every battle. The colony on New Perth that we raided, they know the name of every human who died there. All 3,000. They're not fighting for territory or resources. They're fighting for revenge, and that makes them unpredictable. The council chamber fell silent. Even Kickstart seemed thoughtful. Finally, he spoke. What do you recommend, Commander? Peace, High Prelate. We should open diplomatic channels with humanity. We should apologize for New Perth and negotiate a settlement. We should recognize their territory and leave them alone. Unacceptable. Kickstart stood up, his full 9 feet of height towering over the chamber. If we show weakness now, every species in the Concordat will think they can challenge us. Our empire will crumble. No, we will not apologize. We will not retreat. We will teach the humans that the Concordat is not to be trifled with. Minthal tried to interject. High Prelate, perhaps we should send observers first. Study the humans more carefully. Understand their capabilities before we enough. Kickstart's voice boomed. I call for a vote. The Concordat will send a fleet to intercept one of the human colony ships currently in our space. We will capture it. Show the humans that we are not afraid and demonstrate our power to the entire galaxy. All in favor? 8 hands rose. Only Minthal and 3 others abstained. The vote was decided. Thexeval felt his heart sink. High Prelate, this is a mistake. The Admiral specifically warned us about those colony ships. He said if anything happened to them, I don't care what the human Admiral said. The decision is made. You are dismissed, Commander. Thexeval bowed and left the chamber. As he walked through the corridors of the council building, Minthal caught up with him. They're fools, she said quietly. I've been studying humanity for months. Everything about them suggests they're far more dangerous than we thought. Then why didn't you argue harder? Because Kickstart has already made up his mind. He sees this as a matter of honor. The other council members follow his lead. I'm going to prepare for the worst. What does that mean? Minthal looked around to make sure they were alone. I'm moving our Quilix colony ships away from human space. I'm ordering our frontier outpost to evacuate. And I'm preparing our people for the possibility that we've just started a war we cannot win. You think it will be that bad? Commander, you saw what one human Q-ship did to your cruiser. Now imagine what they'll do when we attack a ship full of their families, their children. Yes, I think it will be that bad. Far away in a secure facility on Earth, Captain Sarah Chen sat in a debriefing room. Across from her was Admiral Katsuro and several intelligence officers. The Concordat intercepted Commander Thexeval's distress signal. One of the officers reported, "We've been monitoring their communications. They're planning to attack the colony ship New Horizons." Admiral Katsuro nodded slowly. Expected. They're going to try to restore their honor by making a show of force. How long until the New Horizons reaches the intercept point? 72 hours, sir. Good. That gives us time to prepare. Activate Protocol Pandora. I want the Third Fleet in position before the Concordat arrives. And make sure every ship captain knows the rules of engagement. The New Horizons is carrying 50,000 civilians. We will not let the Concordat touch them. Captain Chen leaned forward. Sir, if we destroy an entire Concordat fleet, won't that escalate the situation? Admiral Katsuro looked at her with tired eyes. Captain, the situation was escalated the moment they killed 3,000 people on New Perth. We gave them a warning. We showed them mercy. We let Commander Thexeval go home to tell them what would happen if they attacked us again. If they choose to ignore that warning, then what happens next is on them. Yes, sir. One more thing, Captain. I'm putting you in command of the operation. You've already fought the Vrix once. You understand how they think. The New Horizons and her escort are yours to defend. Captain Chen felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. 50,000 lives, civilians who had left Earth to start new lives on a distant world, families, children, people who trusted the Navy to protect them. I won't let you down. Sir, I know you won't. Now go prepare your fleet. The Concordat is about to learn a very hard lesson about attacking humans. The Concordat fleet assembled in the Hexa system, a meeting point far from prying eyes. 30 warships gathered in formation, ranging from light frigates to heavy battlecruisers. It was the largest military force the Concordat had deployed in a decade. High Prelate Kickstart watched from the bridge of his flagship, the Sword of Dominance, and felt satisfied. The show of force would put the humans in their place. Strategic Overseer Minthal stood beside him, her expression unreadable. She had tried one last time to convince him to reconsider. He had refused. Now she was here to observe, to gather data, and to prepare for whatever came next. All ships report ready, High Prelate. The communications officer announced. Excellent. Helm, set course for the intercept point. We will arrive ahead of the human colony ship and wait for them. When they see our fleet, they will have no choice but to surrender." The fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, leaving the hexasystem behind. They emerged 3 hours later in an unremarkable patch of space along the main shipping lane. According to intelligence, the human colony ship New Horizons would pass through here in 18 hours. Kickstart ordered the fleet into a defensive sphere formation. Any ship approaching would see them from a great distance and have time to stop. He didn't want to destroy the colony ship, just capture it. The humans would negotiate, pay a ransom, and the Concordat would demonstrate its power. Simple. Minthal studied the sensor readings carefully. The area appeared empty except for an asteroid field about 5 million kilometers away. Nothing unusual. But something felt wrong. She had learned to trust her instincts over 10,000 years of military service. "High Prelate, I recommend we send scouts to check the asteroid field." "Why?" "It's just rocks." "Perhaps, but if I were the humans and I knew someone was planning to intercept my colony ship, I would prepare an ambush. The asteroid field would be a perfect hiding place." Kickstart considered this, then shook his head. "You're being paranoid. The humans don't know we're coming. We maintained communication silence. Our encryption is unbreakable. Besides, their colony ship has only 2 escort frigates according to our intelligence. Even if they hide warships in the asteroids, we outnumber them." Minthal said nothing. She simply moved to a secondary station and began running probability calculations. The numbers she saw made her nervous. 18 hours passed slowly. The Concordat fleet waited in perfect formation. Crews were at battle stations, weapons charged and ready. Kickstart paced his bridge like a caged predator, eager for the confrontation to begin. Finally, sensors picked up the approaching human vessels. 3 ships emerged from FTL travel at the edge of sensor range. One was clearly the colony ship, massive and cylindrical, painted white with blue markings. The other 2 were small military frigates, exactly as intelligence had predicted. "There they are," Kickstart said with satisfaction. 3 ships against our 30. "Open the channel. Let's give them a chance to surrender before we." His words were cut off as alarms shrieked across the bridge. The sensor officer's voice was panicked. "Multiple contacts. Ships decloaking from the asteroid field. Count is at 15. No, 20. Readings are still coming in." The main display showed the tactical situation and Minthal felt her blood run cold. Human warships were appearing like ghosts from the asteroid field. They had been there all along, hiding in the sensor shadows, waiting. And these weren't frigates or small patrol boats. These were capital ships, dreadnoughts, heavy cruisers, destroyers. How did they know? Kickstart demanded. How did they know we would be here? Minthal had the answer, and it terrified her. They've been listening to us. They broke our encryption. They knew we were coming before we even left port. Before Kickstart could respond, a message played across all Concordat frequencies. It was the colony ship. But the voice wasn't that of a civilian captain. It was an artificial intelligence speaking in perfect Vrix language. Hostile fleet detected. Civilian evacuation protocol initiated. Military assets, you are weapons free for New Perth. The human fleet attacked. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The humans didn't charge forward in a disorganized rush. They moved with perfect coordination. Each ship knowing exactly where to go and what to do. It was like watching a dance, except the dancers were killing machines. The 3 dreadnoughts opened fire first. Their main guns launched projectiles that glowed white-hot from atmospheric friction that shouldn't exist in space. Minthal realized they were using magnetic fields to simulate atmospheric conditions, heating the rounds to incredible temperatures. When those rounds hit Concordat shields, they didn't just punch through. They melted through. 6 Concordat ships exploded in the first 10 seconds. Their shields failed, their hulls were pierced, and their reactor cores went critical. The crews didn't even have time to scream. Return fire. Kickstart roared. All ships engaged the enemy. The Concordat fleet tried. They fired plasma bolts, missiles, and particle beams, but the human ships were too fast. They moved in patterns that seemed random, but weren't. Every time a Concordat ship locked weapons, the human target was already somewhere else. Then came the drones. The two human targets launched hundreds of small autonomous fighters, each one no bigger than a personal shuttle. They swarmed over the Concordat fleet like insects, too small and numerous for the big ships to target effectively. Each drone carried missiles that locked onto specific vulnerable points. Sensor arrays, weapon mounts, engine exhausts. A Concordat cruiser to Minute Thal's left tried to run. It broke formation and attempted to activate its FTL drive. A human destroyer fired a single projectile that hit the cruiser's engineering section with perfect accuracy. The FTL drive exploded, taking half the ship with it. Shields at 30%. The tactical officer shouted, "We can't take much more of this." Minute Thal watched the tactical display and realized something. The humans were being selective. They were destroying some ships completely, but only disabling others. They were making choices about who lived and who died. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. A new voice came over the communications channel. It was Captain Chen, the human officer who had defeated Commander Thexville. Concordat Fleet. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy. You came here to attack a ship carrying 50,000 civilians. You came here to harm families, children, people who did nothing to you. We warned you what would happen. You didn't listen. Another salvo of human weapons fire destroyed 3 more Concordat ships. The fleet was breaking apart now. Captains trying to save their own vessels instead of working together. You have one chance to survive this. Captain Chen continued. All ships will power down weapons immediately and surrender. You have 30 seconds to comply. After that, we will consider you hostile combatants and you will be destroyed. The choice is yours. Kickstart looked around his bridge at the terrified faces of his crew. The main display showed only 8 Concordat ships still fully operational. 22 were either destroyed or crippled. In less than 5 minutes, his fleet had been annihilated. High Prelate, Minute Thal said quietly, "We must surrender. If we don't, everyone here will die. I am the High Prelate of the Vrix Concordat. I do not surrender to inferior species. Then you will be a dead High Prelate, and the Concordat will fall apart without leadership. Is your pride worth that?" Kickstart stared at her, rage and humiliation warring in his expression. Finally, he turned to communications. "Signal all ships. Cease fire. Power down weapons. We surrender." The firing stopped. The human fleet held position. Weapons still trained on the Concordat survivors, but no longer shooting. The sudden silence was almost worse than the battle had been. A new human ship moved forward. It was even larger than the dreadnoughts. A command carrier bristling with weapons and communications arrays. Admiral Katsuro's face appeared on every screen in the Concordat fleet. "High Prelate Kickstart, I am Admiral James Katsuro. You are now prisoners of war. Your surviving crews will be given medical treatment. Your wounded will be cared for. You will be treated with the dignity you denied the people of New Perth." The Admiral's face was like stone. "But understand this. What happened here today is a mercy compared to what we are capable of. You attacked us twice now. We defended ourselves twice. There will not be a third time. If the Concordat ever threatens another human life, we will not stop at destroying your fleets. We will come to your worlds. We will dismantle your empire piece by piece. And we will make sure that every species in the galaxy knows that the Concordat fell because they couldn't leave humans alone." He leaned forward, his eyes boring into the camera. "You are being transported to a neutral station where diplomatic talks will begin. I suggest you use that time to think very carefully about what happens next. Because humanity's patience is at an end." The transmission ended. Kickstart slumped in his command chair, defeated. Around him, his crew worked in silence, following the human instructions to prepare for boarding. Minute Thal accessed her personal computer and began writing a report. She would make sure that every species in the Concordat understood what had happened here. The humans were not weak. They were not easy prey. They were predators who had chosen to be peaceful, but who remembered how to hunt when necessary. The neutral station Gamma 7 orbited a dead moon in unclaimed space. It was a massive structure built by the Galactic Diplomatic Corps, a place where wars ended and treaties were signed. Today, it hosted the most important negotiation in recent galactic history. High Prelate Kickstart sat in a small plane room. His ornate robes had been replaced with simple grey clothing. No weapons, no guards, no symbols of power. Just a defeated leader waiting to face the consequences of his decisions. Across from him sat Strategic Overseer Minute Thal and Commander Thexval. They would negotiate on behalf of the Concordat. The door opened and 3 humans entered. Admiral Katsuro walked in first, followed by Captain Chen and a civilian diplomat named Ambassador Williams. They sat down at the table without ceremony. No grand entrance. No display of victory. They simply sat and waited. Ambassador Williams spoke first. High Prelate, before we begin formal negotiations, Admiral Katsuro has asked to say something to you personally. Kickstart nodded stiffly. The Admiral leaned forward, his hands folded on the table. 6 weeks ago, your forces attacked New Perth. You killed 3,000 of my people. Among them was my daughter. Her name was Emily Katsuro. She was 23 years old. She was a teacher. She taught young children about Earth history and music. She loved her job. She loved those children. The Admiral's voice remained steady, but his eyes were filled with an ancient pain. When your ships attacked, Emily tried to get her students to safety. She helped them evacuate to the shelters. She died protecting them. 15 children survived because of her sacrifice. Kickstart felt something twist in his chest. He had ordered that attack. He had called humans weak and soft. He had never considered that they were people with families and loved ones. I tell you this, the Admiral continued, because I want you to understand something. Every human who died on New Perth had a story. They had families. They had dreams. They had value. And humanity remembers every single one of them. When you attacked our colony ship carrying 50,000 civilians, you weren't attacking military targets. You were trying to murder families, children, people like my daughter. The Admiral sat back. So let me be very clear. The only reason you're sitting here instead of floating dead in space is because we chose mercy. But that mercy has limits. Do you understand? Kickstart's voice was hoarse. I understand, Admiral. I'm sorry for your loss. Your sorrow doesn't bring my daughter back, but it might save lives in the future. Let's begin negotiations. Ambassador Williams pulled up holographic documents. The United Earth government has outlined its terms for peace. First, the Concordat will formally recognize all human territorial claims. Second, a demilitarized zone will be established between human and Concordat space. No military vessels from either side will be permitted to cross. Third, the Concordat will pay reparations to the families of New Perth victims. Fourth, all future first contact situations will follow established peaceful protocols. And fifth, a permanent diplomatic mission will be established between our peoples. Minute Thal reviewed the terms carefully. These terms are surprisingly generous. I expected harsher demands. We don't want to destroy the Concordat, Captain Chen said. We just want to be left alone. But we also want to make sure this never happens again. That's why we're also proposing a joint council with other species in the region. We'll share our experiences, establish protocols for peaceful contact, and create a framework for resolving disputes without war. Thexval spoke for the first time. You want to build a galactic community? A place where different species can coexist peacefully? That's exactly what we want, Admiral Katsuro confirmed. Humanity has fought too many wars. We've seen what hatred and fear can do. We've nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We came to the stars hoping to find a better way. But we also learned that peace requires strength. We have to be strong enough that no one dares attack us, but also wise enough to choose peace when we can. Minute Thal looked at Kickstart. The High Prelate had been silent, his expression thoughtful. Finally, he spoke. I was wrong about humans. I thought your desire for peace was weakness. I thought your reluctance to conquer was cowardice. I see now that it takes more strength to choose peace than to choose war. And I nearly destroyed the Concordat because of my pride." He looked at Admiral Katsuro. "I accept your terms. All of them. And I will personally ensure that the Concordat follows them, but I have a request." "What request?" "Allow Commander Thexville to serve as our permanent ambassador to humanity. He has seen what your people are capable of. He understands you better than anyone else in the Concordat, and he has proven his wisdom by choosing surrender over pointless death." Ambassador Williams looked at Thexville. "Commander, would you be willing to take on this role?" Thexville stood and bowed. "I would be honored. I failed my people once by underestimating humanity. I will not fail them again by refusing to learn from that mistake." "Then it's agreed," Admiral Katsuro said. "The war between humanity and the Concordat is over. Let's make sure it stays that way." 6 months later, the colony ship New Horizons completed its journey. The colonists settled on a beautiful world they named Haven, far from the conflicts of the past. The first structure they built was not a factory or a fortress. It was a memorial. The New Perth Memorial stood on a hill overlooking the main settlement. It was a simple structure made of black stone with 3,000 names carved into its surface. Each name represented a life lost, a story ended, a family forever changed. Admiral Katsuro stood before the memorial during the dedication ceremony. Representatives from 30 different species attended, including Strategic Overseer Minute Thal and Ambassador Thexville. It was the first major gathering of the new Galactic Peace Council. The Admiral stepped up to speak, his voice carrying across the crowd. "We gather here today to remember 3,000 people who died because of fear and misunderstanding. They were farmers and teachers, engineers and artists, parents and children. They came to New Perth to build a better future. They died because someone decided they were weak." He paused, looking at the assembled crowd. "But their deaths were not meaningless. Because of New Perth, humanity showed the galaxy who we really are. We are not conquerors. We are not pacifists. We are survivors who have learned that peace is worth fighting for. We are builders who carry weapons. We are dreamers protected by warriors." Admiral Katsuro gestured to the memorial. "Let this monument stand as a reminder. Not a reminder of hatred or revenge, but a reminder of the cost of conflict. Every name here represents a choice. A choice to attack rather than communicate. A choice to fear rather than understand. A choice to destroy rather than build." He turned to face the crowd directly. "The Galactic Peace Council exists because we all made a different choice. We chose to learn from tragedy. We chose to build bridges instead of walls. We chose to remember the dead by protecting the living. This is humanity's gift to the galaxy. The understanding that peace is not the absence of capacity for violence. Peace is the choice not to use it." Ambassador Thexville stepped forward, his translator rendering his words into all the languages represented. "On behalf of the Vrix Concordat, I stand before this memorial in shame and in hope. Shame for what my people did. Hope that we can build something better. Humans say they remember everything. Let all species remember this place. Let us remember what happens when we choose fear over understanding. And let us commit to never letting it happen again." The ceremony continued with speeches from other representatives. Minute Thal spoke about the importance of cultural exchange. A human scientist discussed plans for joint research projects. A trader from the Quilox talked about new economic partnerships. As the sun set on Haven, casting long shadows across the memorial, Captain Sarah Chen stood beside Admiral Katsuro. She had been promoted again, now commanding her own battle group. But today she wore a simple dress uniform with no weapons. "Do you think it will last, sir? The peace?" Admiral Katsuro looked at the memorial, at the names of the people he had failed to protect. At his daughter's name carved into stone forever. "I don't know, Captain. But we've given it a chance. We showed the galaxy that humanity will defend itself. But we also showed that we prefer peace. That's all we can do. And if someone else attacks us? If another species decides to test us?" The Admiral's expression hardened slightly. Then we remind them why it's a mistake to attack humans. We do what we did to the Concordat. We defend ourselves. We show mercy to those who surrender. And we make sure everyone learns the lesson. Peace through strength isn't about being ready to kill. It's about being so obviously dangerous that no one wants to find out how dangerous you really are. Captain Chen nodded. "For New Perth. For New Perth," the Admiral repeated. "And for every human who will live peacefully because we were strong enough to demand peace and wise enough to show mercy." Far above Haven, the stars twinkled in the darkness. Human ships patrolled the borders, vigilant and ready. But they weren't alone anymore.